All right, welcome to Forever Forward Podcast. This is Damon, Goddard, your host, and welcome you back. Today's very exciting for me. We brought an athlete on that, one, inspires the heck out of me, but leads with a lot of influence. And so just like the theme of Forever Forward Podcast, keep it moving forward and always, going that one step past your threshold to kind of increase your capacity is really what we're talking about. And this particular athlete has led by example, had consistently taken that just one step beyond the threshold to always increase your capacity. And one of those things where it reminds me of a quote is, you will never influence the world being just like it. And out of everyone that I know from an athlete standpoint, professional standpoint, and just simply just an amazing person, hasn't necessarily conformed and she's been her own person. So let me give you a little bit of background on Nancy. I mean, she goes without saying there's a laundry list of amazing things. I know I'm going to miss a lot, but she's inducted in the Basketball Hall of Fame, Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. She's been on the U.S. national teams. 2 times national champion in Old Dominion. She's, from a professional career standpoint, played with the Dallas Diamonds, played with the Washington Generals. In '97, she was with Phoenix Mercury at the age of 39. We're going to touch a little bit on that. That's awesome. And then she shifted over to becoming the GM and the head coach over at Detroit Shock. She's been an ESPN analyst, still is. She played at Detroit Shock as well, had a little 7-day contract with Detroit Shock, and at the age of 50. So we're going to touch on that because she's an absolute rock star from a lot of angles. And then she became the first women's woman to coach a professional men's sport. And so she was a coach at Texas Legends. She was an assistant coach at Sacramento Kings. And a really cool piece too, I don't know if everyone's seen it, the Big Three. In 2018, she became the head coach of Power. And first years were right off the bat, let's get the championship and become the coach of the year with that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nancy Lieberman.
A lot of stuff.
That's quite the laundry list of stuff. And
you didn't mention my dog's name. No.
We'll get there. Nancy, you and I have had, we've gotten to know each other, over the past few years, and we've had a couple of really amazing conversations. And every time I've sat with you, it's one of those times where I've wanted to just kind of pull so much from you, and from so much experience, so much fervor that you've had, and really, with my thing is, you're leading by influence. It's not just, it just fell in your lap. And, off of that list that we talked about, I mean, goodness, there's a lot of firsts, and from growing up where you grew up to, choosing a college that you chose. There's a great story behind that. And, being the oldest to get a WNBA contract, and then becoming the first woman, coach in a professional men's sport. So there's a lot of barriers that you've had to kind of go through. And, so let's just jump right off the board and just go, what was the premise behind the mindset that you've had to just go, there's a lot of barriers. And I just don't see them, or maybe I do see them and I don't care. I just want to be who I am. So what was the mindset that you've had with all these, specific pieces throughout your entire career?
It's interesting that you say, what was your mindset? It's people sometimes who haven't done what you have, who overthink the process. I never overthink the process. I just see what's in front of me, figure out what I need to do to be successful at that. And then I just try to blow through it. And I think I'm more, if I look back on my career, I'm an athlete from the 80s, but I'm still relevant in 2020. So I'm hoping that means I've done something right over a long period of time. And I'm not a one-hit wonder. So I think historically you would call me a disruptor of history. Mm-hmm. Because if you say you can't do something, there's been a lot of Nancy Camp moments. And when I was young, or making an Olympic team in high school, or playing basketball in Rutger Park, where little white girls don't show up in Harlem, or,
Right.
coaching a men's team or playing for Pat Riley and the Lakers in 1980. What I learned early on in my life, and I'm a tough kid from New York, but I learned to respect everybody and to fear nobody.
Right.
And that's what I have taken with me every step that's been put in front of me.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are so afraid of the moment because they see failure instead of seeing success.
Mm.
I never see failure. I learned through my blessed relationship with Muhammad Ali, who I fell in love with at 10 and followed and listened to everything he said because he
Yeah.
wanted to be the greatest of all times.
Right. Yeah.
And then when I ended up meeting him in December of 79, I was going into my senior year at Old Dominion.
Mm.
And I realized that I had to learn how to love me, because I hid behind being Nancy Lieberman, this
Right.
accomplished basketball player that, people were enamored with. But down deep, I was empty. And for some reason, he saw that in me.
Yeah.
And the greatest love of all, I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity,
Mm-hmm.
because the greatest love of all is inside of me.
Right.
And I had to learn to love me to be able to continue my path.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest epiphany in my life as a person, and it flooded over into my professional career.
No, that's absolutely huge, and and so spot on. I think, and especially with athletes that are very successful right off the bat, it becomes very overwhelming. Just like these waves continuing crashing, you are rolling with it, but then all of a sudden you kind of have to sit back and go, wait a minute, am I still me? Am I still intact? And I love that. That was your senior year. You kind of had those realizations of like, okay, I still have my dignity. I still have that sense of self that can continue to propel forward. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how you've earned a little bit of your moxie. You grew up, I believe, in the Bronx, and
Brooklyn, born in Brooklyn, grew up in Queens.
There you go. And yeah, I mean, you went to play basketball with the guys, and you played multiple sports. And I once heard a story of you playing football and you're playing baseball, and they it was an interesting story of how they kind of just shunned you because it was hey, you're a girl playing a boy sport, and then you had the opportunity to then pick up basketball, and they kind of said, hey, welcome you with open arms to be able to play with the guys. And so talk a little bit about, did that start this mindset of going, you know what, I am who I am, irrespective of gender, race, whatever, and I just am going to be the best of what I want to be at?
I think when I was younger, I really didn't, I didn't overthink things. I never have, by the way. I'm kind of like a guy in that respect. I just went out and did what I felt was the right thing to do, and what I enjoyed, and the people that I was around. And I appreciate the support that I got from a lot of the guys that I played with early in my career, because they recognized the fact that I was just like them. I just didn't have a place to play. Like when I was playing in the 60s and 70s, there was no Title IX, there was no gender equity, there was no WNBA, there were no scholarships. I just wanted to be in the schoolyard playing ball or working out.
Yeah.
I wasn't carjacking. I wasn't robbing you. It was optional where I grew up.
Yeah.
But sports, I needed sports more than sports needed me, because I was a poor kid from a one-parent family.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an angry childhood because of my circumstances. But I fueled that into how I played and how hard, I performed, whether it was in the park or in practice. And it just gave me a certain level. It might not have been your level. And that's why, like, I watched this Last Dance with Michael,
Mm-hmm.
and I see, and I've been friends since the day he went to Chicago. So many of those many of those scenes that you're watching in The Last Dance over the last 10 hours, I was around, I was with, you know, whether it was Barkley or Rodman or, you know, any of those guys.
Right.
And I subscribe to Michael's mentality. I was very tough on my teammates in high school, in college, and beyond, because there's a price to pay for greatness.
Right.
And I wanted to be great. I did not want to be good. And I was not going to allow anybody to take me down to their level. If I could, I was going to pull you up to my level. Because at the end of the day, I just wanted to win. But winning is hard.
Yeah.
Winning has a price. I mean, you ask Tiger Woods, you ask Phil Mickelson, you ask Michael Jordan, you ask Wayne Gretzky, you ask Nancy Lieberman. Winning is hard.
Yeah.
That's why in the history of sports, it's been so difficult. And even coaching the big three, you mentioned with my players, look, I had Corey Maggette, Cuttino Mobley, Big Baby Davis, Quentin Richardson, Birdman, Chris Anderson. These guys have collectively made like over $100 million.
Yeah.
And only two guys on my team had ever won a championship, and that was, you know, Glenn, Big Baby with the Celtics, and Birdman with the Miami Heat. He won 2 rings.
Yeah.
So it's hard to win. I mean, go ask Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth, how hard it is to win. And then when you win, and all of a sudden the level of expectation goes up every time you step on the court, every time you step, you know, on the golf course.
Yeah.
It's a whole different mental and preparation game, because you have to be healthy. You have to be mentally, physically, emotionally ready to compete. And you have the little circle on your back. Everybody's coming at you every single day, every single play, every single shot. So that develops your mental toughness. And some succeed, and quite frankly, some fail.
Right. You know, that's interesting because, I mean, you've had a very expansive career. I mean, you know, you really take a look at it from, you know, the age standpoint. And, you know, listen, you're not going to find a lot of 40-year-old players, 39-year-old players, you know, even 50-year-old players. And so it speaks to the volume of, you know, always having that preparedness, you know, always being able to, you know, we always talk about, you know, when you're prepared, you know, that's when opportunity, if you're most prepared for the opportunity that comes around, that's the people that are going to succeed. And, you know, what was in your mindset to just kind of constantly always be prepared? Is that an innate thing for you? Or did you intentionally at one point go, you know what, mentally I've got to be sharp, physically I've got to be sharp, you know, and every aspect of my game has got to be sharp, because, you know, I don't know when that next opportunity is going to arise, especially, you know, when at the beginning of, you know, the professional career, you know, the women's, you know, professional basketball league was a little bit in flux. And so it was kind of like, you know, you were just coming off of preparing for the Olympics at the 1980 Olympics, and then the boycott happened. So there was a little bit of flux at that time. You know, talk about a little bit of just the constant mindset of being, you know, I need to be prepared, even if it's, you know, when I'm, you know, coming off a collegiate career, or if I go, you know what, WA is finally happening and I can step on the court and actually, you know, handle this.
You know, you have to have a little dog in you. Anybody who's had any level of greatness, sustained greatness, has to have that dog. They have to have that will. There's skill and there's will, and you have to have a combination of both. It's not to say you can't be a professional, but what are you trying to get out of it at the end? Are you just, you know, getting a paycheck? Are you just, you know, is it a money grab? I like this, it pays me well, it's been a good situation for me. Or do you want to rewrite the record books? What is it that you want? And that will determine what direction you go. So like I said, a lot of people, I have players who so overthink things that they can never actually get to what they want to do because they're still thinking about what they want to do. Right. And you have to have you have to be instinctual in what you're trying to accomplish with your life or with your career. And that's what it's been like for me. Yeah. So, you know, even playing at 39 years old or playing at 50 years of age, for me, I knew I still had that competitive spirit in me, that I still
Mhm.
wanted to win, but I still respect the game.
Right.
And I respect athletes in every sport. And I've been very, fortunate to have these relationships. But, when Deion Sanders went back and played for the Ravens at 37, I mean, I got the phone call in the middle of the night to come to Prosper, to come to his house, to talk to
Right.
his wife at the time, and explain to her what this commitment was going to be like. He had to physically, mentally, emotionally be all in.
Yeah.
After practice, he wasn't just going to hop in the car and come home. He had to spend time with the kids on the practice squad. He might have to talk to grandma. He might have to do things because not only who he was, but, he was 37 years old. And I
Right.
remember going to the house and, him talking to me like, what is it going to feel like? What, and just kind of, chewing it up and talking about what would be in front of him.
Mhm.
I've had these conversations with Larry Fitzgerald, other athletes. I'll tell you, when I played in 2008 at 50 in the WNBA for Lambeer with the Shock, I played on a Saturday on ESPN.
Mhm.
And then on Tuesday, I went to my real job, working for ESPN.
Right.
So we're
Yeah.
doing the Laker game. And we just finished with our pre-practice interviews with Phil Jackson, and it's Van Gundy and Mark Jackson and myself. And I'm walking down the hall, and Kobe Bryant goes, "Hey." I go, "Hey." And he goes, "You got 15?" I said, "Yes, sir." And I went in a room and sat down with him, and it was like, just, the most curious man in the world is not the Dasaki's guy, it's Kobe Bryant.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. It was like being in a think tank. He wanted to know how I felt, how
Mhm.
my body felt, my mind, the support group around me. He wanted to know absolutely everything. And this was the world champion at the time and the
Right.
MVP in the NBA. And he wanted to know what a 50-year-old white woman was feeling and why I would risk my reputation to come back on the court to play. And see, that's the difference with Kobe. He's non-discriminatory. He just
Right.
wants information so he could plug that into what he's doing.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
it's really cool. Even like about 6 weeks ago, I got a phone call from Dwight Howard, who I've known for a long time, and or Steph Curry, or it's really actually pretty cool
Yeah.
that people will pick up a phone and say, "Hey, you got a minute?"
Yeah.
And it's all respect. It's like our relationship, what you do for your golfers. And I
Mhm.
could use a golf lesson, Jordan, if you're watching this. A short game could use some help.
We all could. We all could. Well, and it's interesting. You talk about the respect, and one of those key things that I had to learn in college was, when I played, college soccer, I had a teammate that we were starting to talk about respect, and we had that respect is earned type of mentality, and it's through action. We talk a lot about, what is motivation. Motivation just seems to be this floating thing out here, but to me, motivation is just simply action, and your action is influence. And to me, everything in your career, everything from a athlete standpoint to everything that you do is really action oriented. I'm going to do and lead by example, and to me that is the most influential piece to me. I mean, that's why you have these athletes that, irrespective of where they're at in their career, or maybe at the beginning, or maybe making really big decisions, I think they're going to be able to approach you and go, "Listen, you've led by example. You were the one that put in action and play." And so I think that respect is earned kind of thing with your career makes you who you are. And I appreciate that. That's why I enjoy talking to you about different philosophies, and especially as it pertains to the transition that you talk about a little bit on from being a player. And let's talk about this a little bit. What was that transition from being a player to then becoming a coach? Right off the bat, it was with the Detroit Shock, I believe. That shift in the mindset from going, okay, from athlete to coach, did you have to make a hard transition on that? Or, listen, I'm on the court all the time. I think I can make this easy transition, from leading a team from the coaching standpoint, and from a different angle? Or what was that transition for you?
I knew I was closer to the end of my career at 39 after, the inaugural season in the WNBA. And I was glad that I was able to eke out 1 year and let TJ, my son, he was 3, see what mommy did for real. Okay.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is we're influencers, and influencers are the action and everybody else is the reaction. And you can't be afraid. That's why some people are, I hate to say it, but they see the negative. They don't see themselves successful. So they're so worried about losing, winning or losing, or I can do it or I can't do it, that they become part of that woulda, coulda, shoulda club. And then they get jealous of other people that do and go on to become something.
Right.
And that's not my mindset. See, I'm a minimalist. 2 things can happen. I can get the job or not get the job.
Right.
I can win or not win. I can prepare my team or not prepare my team. And so I felt very comfortable. And by the way, I never, like some people say, I've been wanting to be a coach my whole life. That's never been me. I really never thought about coaching until I took the job in Detroit. But I thought that I could change people's career and help them obtain their goals of what they wanted in life.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing like on the men's side, even coaching, with the Kings, with DeMarcus Cousins and Rondo and Rudy Gay and Bellinelli and Darren Collison, and we had an amazing team.
Yeah.
But my job as a coach is to help get you to your next contract. If we can, if you in the NBA, if you can get 3 contracts, you've had a damn good career.
Yeah.
If you get somebody to their 4th contract, you've hit the Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Right.
Okay. I'm not sure how it is in golf or some other team sports.
Right.
But, I want to celebrate you, not tolerate you. You don't have to be perfect for me.
Right.
You just have to show up. The first part of making the club is you can't be in the tub, right?
Yeah.
You can't always be hurt. You can't always have an excuse. I told my team with the Legends, our first time when Donnie Nelson, made that historic hire and gave me that first seat.
Yeah.
With the Texas Legends, and we said no excuses, no explanations. If you're explaining your excuse, you don't want accountability.
Right.
I want people that have accountability. You don't have to be perfect. Matter of fact, I would take somebody with lesser talent and was a good team person than somebody who, because team trumps talent.
Right.
And to be in the locker room with these guys, or to sit down, over time with some of these athletes, like, it could be, MJ or Barkley or Bird or Magic, or today's incredible stars. It's one thing is the same. You have to have skill and you have to have will.
Yeah.
And if you find guys or gals with both of them, you're cooking with oil.
Yeah.
I want people. You remember Jerry Stackhouse?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when I was in Detroit, Doug Collins was the coach of the Pistons, and Doug was amazing, always including me in his coaches meetings, very inclusive.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey man, tell me about Stack." I have him practicing against, my women's team, and it was really kind of cool.
Yeah.
He goes, "Nancy, Stack's amazing. If you go to war, you want Jerry Stackhouse." And I'm getting all excited. I'm like, "Really? Why?" He goes, he's gonna shoot the hell out of the enemy. Oh, he's gonna get some of us. There's gonna be friendly fire, but he's gonna get mostly them. And I want that guy on my team."
Yeah.
So I'm looking for people that, are going to be in the foxhole with me and be mentally tough and play through some injuries and just have these enormous qualities that you see in the greats. You saw it in Ali. You saw it in Martina Navratilova. You see it in Serena Williams. You see it in Tiger.
Yeah.
Being able to come back after all the stuff he's gone through.
Yeah.
He could have packed it in, stayed on the yacht and said, "I'm done."
Right.
But he still has a dog in him.
Yeah.
Dion,
Yeah.
all these great athletes, Larry Fitzgerald. Man, it's hard to retire
Yeah.
because you miss the locker room. You miss the adulation. You miss the stories. You miss lying to each other about how great you are.
That's true. That's true. It's funny is always, like you said, just being able to have a teammate, being able to lead with other people. I think, as a coach and as a, working with athletes, you become very micro focused and you're wanting the best for that specific person. And, the byproducts of that when you're a coach or leading is, the championships are going to come, the trophies will come. But if you're pulling the best out of that person, rather than just putting your thumb down and being negative, rather than breathing life into them and going, this is what I think you're capable of. And then all of a sudden you start to shift their mindset. I mean, heck, you can do that with, your sons and daughters. You can do that with, spouses. You can do it with friends. I mean, the idea of going, I want to be able to breathe life into you, rather than putting a thumb down, going, man, I don't think you can do that. Rather than going, I think it's pretty possible for you to do that. And then all of a sudden it shifts the mindset. I think that's a huge piece for, even right now, where during these times, it's like, there's so much influx of just not knowing what's going on with, quarantine and whatnot. I think being able to stay on that positive note and going, I can be creative during this time, or I can shut down during this time and really just kind of let things happen to me. Go back a little bit to your time a little bit with Martina. Obviously she's an amazing athlete in tennis and has made some, obviously everyone will know her name in the tennis world. Talk a little bit about your time, spent with her and coaching during a pretty pivotal time throughout her career.
Well, first, I want to just finish on what you said. We need to celebrate each other, not tolerate each other. I'm talking about all people, but it starts in our home. And people are not perfect. And we have to, God plays through our mistakes every single day. And it's okay to forgive and try to forget. I'm not saying I'm the best at that. But I wake up inspired every morning thinking, if the good Lord gives me a chance to open, I call these my shades, open my shades and take a breath of air. There's somebody out there. It could be my smile makes you smile. It doesn't cost anything. Like in basketball, I throw a pass and a guy makes a shot and he points. He's saying, thank you for setting me up for success.
Yeah.
And that has to make you feel good. You elevated, lift when you rise. If things happen that are good to you, take somebody else up with you. And that's kind of been my mantra. So every day, it just could be a random kindness to somebody, because you never know what somebody's going through. It could be, well, obviously not now, but it could be a high five, chest bump, a wink, a point, just to let somebody know, that it's okay. They've done something really, really nice today.
Yeah.
So going back to Martina, when I met Martina back in '81, the Dallas Diamonds, we just lost in the 5th game in the championship series to Nebraska. Then the league folds. Ironically, by the grace of God, I meet Martina, and she's like this amazingly accomplished athlete. She was only maybe 24. I was 21. And I would just talk to her. I'm like, all right, tell me in the history of your game, and you've won 2 Wimbledons and this and that. And we went out to train the first day. I went to watch her, and she's like on this court. She's hitting balls with her coach. She's talking to Chris Everett here. She's waving to Billie Jean over here. She's, hey, Shriver. And I was like, you know me, like I'm so direct. And I go, I'm not, and I used to talk like this from New York. How you doing? Before I had to go to elocution school for ESPN in like '82. And I'm like, I know why you don't win all the time. I said, you stink. You don't even practice hard. I can't believe they pay you.
Oh no. Yeah.
We lose each other here?
No, we're good. Go ahead and keep cooking. Yeah.
Okay. So Martina looks at me and she goes, what? I said, seriously, if I don't have a league now, but if I were playing tennis, I'd kick your ass. And she didn't know what to say. I was like, you don't train hard. You're not focused. you just come out here on this natural ability and you win, you know, $4 or $5 million a year. And I give my pinky to have the opportunity to do what you're doing. We started running on the track at SMU one time, and we were warming up, just doing little loops.
Yeah.
And she started crying, and people were like,
no.
"You're so mean." And I would be like, "Mind your business, or I'll beat you up." And the person like ran the other way. I was like, "She's jogging and she's crying." We hadn't even got into training. And
Right.
look, I played for Pat Summitt. I played for, you know, Pat Riley. I played for Dewey Moore. I had coaches who just, I mean, it would borderline on bullying. And I was friends with Bobby Knight. So,
oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, tennis players, and don't get mad at me, like golfers, in my opinion, were soft.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
I've never seen Tiger hit a golf ball with somebody in his face.
Right.
I'm trying to make a layup. I'm getting bumped. It's a big guy. He's got his hand on my hip. He's redirecting me. They're boxing me out. They're sending me a message. I've never seen the ball hit Jordan Spieth.
Yeah. Total side note. Yeah. Total side note. I would love to see full contact golf, you know, just like under a clock, you know, like a 5-second clock. You got 5 seconds before somebody tackles you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I did American Gladiators one year. I did the Superstars competition. American Gladiators, every professional athlete would be petrified of these people because they were just like after us. They were behemoths. And I was like, oh man, individual athletes could not go through this.
Right.
So I segued off of Martina, but Martina is like, you know, she went on to win 9 Wimbledons. Nobody has won more. When, you know, you're talking about Margaret Court, Martina, Steffi Graf, and Serena Williams,
wow.
the 4 greatest players to ever play because of their consistency. You know, I think it was 1983, and Martina won 74 matches in a row. I mean, she was beating Chris Everett in like 30 minutes. If it went like 33 minutes, I'd be like, oh, you're not going to play more? Really?
Right. Yeah, time's ticking. We gotta go. That's amazing. And it is a big shift, especially for the individual athletes that are out there. Is you know, that work ethic to be singularly focused is very difficult. You know, I see it with a lot of the PGA players, LPGA players, the individual sports. There's just something a little bit different when you're, you know, you have to look at a teammate and be held accountable for your actions. And you know, I was lucky enough to play, you know, the you know, some team sports, you know, all through growing up. And you know, when you look a teammate in the eye and you have to show up and know that you're going to influence their tempo, you're going to influence their game with other people. It's a big, you know, it's a big, you know, responsibility. But when you're on the individual side, it's really interesting because you know what, you are your team. Now you have your, you know, people that, you know, your physios, your, you know, caddies, your, you know, coaches, your swing, you know, all these other people. But you know, when it comes down to it, as an individual athlete, you know what, when you step out onto the court, whether it be tennis, golf, it's you, and you have to show up. And you know, a lot of times, you know, people don't realize that there's a massive amount of weight on that go, man, I can't rely on an athlete, you know, another teammate. Maybe I'm a little bit slower today, but that, you know, my teammate can, you know, pick up a little bit of the pace. So there's this interesting balance on a team sport. The dynamic is really interesting, but when it's that individual sport, man, that entire microscope is right on you, and you better show up and perform. And you know,
let me say something to what you're saying here. So again, I'm going to go back to The Last Dance because it's you know, thank goodness we've had that. Yeah. So the one question I've been doing, you know, interviews, you know, since it started around the country, and everybody's like, man, I can't believe that Michael Jordan and Steve Kerr got into a fist fight. If I told you how many fist fights happened in locker rooms, on the court, men, women's, it happens all the time. It happens in the NFL. It happens in the NHL. That's
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise. I was talking to my teammate at Old Dominion yesterday, Jan Tremblay. She was part of the two championship teams. And she goes, did you know about the day in practice where Ing punched me in the face and knocked me out cold? And I said, yeah, because we had to go down to the other end of the floor until they could get you up with smelling salts.
You're taking up space. Yeah.
It's so, yeah, it's so like to other people or individual athletes. I don't know how many fist fights there are in golf or in tennis or whatnot.
Yeah.
But on the regular, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
On Olympic teams, I remember I was doing the TV in 2000 for the Olympics in Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in my hotel room. One of the guys on the team called me. I won't call names. And I was like, how'd practice go today? We had another fist fight. I go, really? He goes, 3 days, 3 fist fights, 3 different, different guys. It's so competitive. And then you put the physicality against that. It's crazy. And that just fuels, I mean, you find out, who's a man and who's a mouse in those situations.
Right. Well, and even after that, there's so much passion and competitiveness that goes on in that. It's interesting is, at the end of the practice, you're still buds and you're still best friends and you're still teammates and you're still, you're still reliant on one another. And it's just a matter of having that competitiveness with the compassion to go, yeah, I still love you, but I'm going to sock you in the eye. And that's okay. I think, I think that fuels, a good team. I think it fuels, a lot of careers. Like, listen, I'm going to keep you accountable to it. And, but, know that I love you. But I'm not going to tolerate that. And so
but you got to know who you're competing against, because back in the 80s with Martina, she and Chris Everett were the 2 top players.
Yeah.
And they were best friends. And for a long time, Chris was upset with me. I mean, we've come a long way in our friendship over the years. But I kept saying to Martina, if she's your best friend, and I would do the old basketball thing. I'd clip the article or the quote and I'd tape it on her, her mirror of her place and go, that's what your best friend said about you today. Mm-hmm. That's what, and I, just, locker room fodder. And, I tried to get Martina to disengage during the course of the match. Right. I said, look, you don't know who it is. It's not your friend. Because Martina wanted to beat her 6'4", not hurt her feelings. I was like, beat her 6 love, and let her feelings get healed.
Yeah.
So, it was a different mindset. I was kind of like, the evil, the little guy on the shoulder here with the pitchfork, and Martina was like with wings and the halo. It's like, oh no, you send a message the next time you play her. She doesn't even think she can win. So it's that gamesmanship and that mind game, which is very much a part. When Tiger was winning everything, guys came to the course and they weren't talking about winning. They were hoping, but they were playing for, second, third, the money, the points.
Yeah.
But in many cases, they didn't think if Tiger was in the tournament that they were going to win.
Right. Yeah.
It's part of the mind game.
No, it is, and I think that's the presence that you start to be able to be creating through just consistently showing up and consistently having those actions. So, let me ask you a little bit on this. Nancy, is when you start to take a look at your career, how do you want people to remember you throughout this entire basketball career?
For the longest time, I wanted to be remembered as the greatest basketball player of all time. And that was my thought process, because I needed that for what I wasn't getting in other areas. And if you look back now, I'd like people to think that I, was loving and kind, and I helped other people through my charity, through Nancy Lieberman Charities. We've given almost $19 million over the last 38 years. Wow. We've sent 75 high school seniors to college. We don't just pay for them to go to college. They stay in touch with me. They have to have skin in the game too. Yeah. They have to either call me, text me, email me every semester. They have to shadow first responders, police, fire, medical, We help network them to jobs, help them build their resumes. So it's not just a one and done. The dream courts we build are not just outdoor basketball courts. We also have partnered with the USTA. So in underserved areas, kids that were told, oh, no, you're a young African-American. No, you play basketball or football. You don't play tennis or golf.
Yeah.
Don't ever tell a kid that.
No.
That is so wrong, to take that dream away from them. So we have partnered with USTA because we want kids who have never had a racket in their hand to see if they enjoy that game. We have STEM on every court. We also play, how you play horse. We have, instead of horse, we have civic hoops, and we teach them about government in the cities and the state that they live in. So we're bringing people together. We're building their confidence and self-esteem. We've given over 1,500 tablets so kids could be on a level playing field with technology for homework.
Yep.
And, we're just trying to do, during this pandemic, we've fed almost 3,500 police officers, first line, medical people at Baylor Scott and White, firefighters, young people, families in underserved communities, given over 2,000 masks to Chief Brown, who is now the chief in Chicago, the superintendent.
Yeah.
He just took that job, and to Mayor Johnson. We're just trying to do our fair share.
Yeah.
That's all I could say is we want to build a super team around us of givers.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ali, who told me when I was young, there's going to be two people in life. He told me this when I was 19. They're going to be givers and there's going to be takers. I would like you to be a giver.
Yeah.
And, Maya Angelou said, don't go through life with two mitts. If you're only catching, you're a taker. If you throw something back, you're a giver.
Yeah.
That's who we want to be on our short time here on this earth.
I love that. And it's one of those things I talk with my athletes a lot is, your entire career is this massive portrait that, every trophy, every championship, whatever that means, that isn't in and of itself. All that is just a little stroke or, on this big portrait at the end of the day, when we, go up to the big sky is, this massive portrait that we used a platform of our influence to then breathe life into other people. To me, that's legacy, and you're doing an amazing job with that with your charity. How can people, donate to the charity? How can they get involved with it? Tell me a little bit about, what are the connection points with your charity? How can they get involved?
Well, thank you for saying that. We're always looking for great teammates. Like I said, we want to be a super team, super people that inspire. Inspiring people inspire people.
Right. And
go to NancyLiebermanCharities.org. Look at what we're doing. See if something hits your heart or if you think it's important. We can't cure cancer or any of those dreadful diseases. We can take perfectly healthy children that just need a hand up. And I was that child. I was that child with no heat and no food and no father and one grandparent away from food stamps growing up in New York. By the grace of God, look where I am today. Yeah. And, I just want to help people. There's really good kids out there that just need help. And I have a lot of empathy and I have a lot of hope for the future, but we're a part of helping people that don't know me, don't know us.
Yeah.
Let's do the right thing always.
Absolutely. So everyone that's listening, watching, definitely, take a look at the charity. I mean, she's doing amazing things with it, using the platform for influencing kids that need it. And, just like Nancy said, it's a hand up and not a handout. It's to elevate somebody from their current situation and, going side by side with them. Nancy, I appreciate you taking the time. I mean, absolutely, everything that you said today was absolute gold, and I can do a 10-part series with this. But I know you're super busy, and I want to say I appreciate your time. I'm going to give you an official thank you for the assist point, and what are other ways that everyone can, follow what you do, follow the charity? Do you have Instagram? Do you have Facebook? Do you anything like
I'm
that?
on everything. I am. It takes a lot of time, but yeah, you gotta stay up with all the millennials.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. But yes, Nancy Lieberman on Facebook, Nancy Lieberman on Instagram, on Twitter. You can follow TJ, my son, who you have helped immensely. So I owe you a great debt of gratitude. What you've done for my kid, who's a professional basketball player.
Yep.
And you're keeping him healthy mentally. You've been a great role model for him, as you are for many other people. So right back at you. And if anybody needs anything or has a question, feel free to reach out to me. So thank you. God bless each and every one of you.
All right, Nancy, stay well and healthy, and I look forward to our next conversation. Have an awesome day.
You too. Bye.